If you would, please join us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Ms. Ben.
Father, we come before you today in this committee to review, make decisions regarding the ECUA, ratepayers in our community. Please give us the wisdom to make good decisions. We also thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us each day, in all things and in every way. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Which one is mine?
I think it's that one. I moved over one because I'm sharing where I usually don't. All right, we are now at adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Any additions?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Is the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. Got a yellow circle? We're now at the open forum section of the meeting. Is there anybody who would like to address the Citizens Advisory Committee in open forum? Well, if something comes up, you'll have another chance at the end of the meeting. Approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Are there any corrections? Yes, Ms. Ritz.
I move
Thank you.
to approve the minutes as transcribed.
Thank you, Ms. Ritz. Is there a second? Ms. Booker?
I was going to do a second.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Booker. It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Please vote on the minutes. Motion carries 10-0. We're now at item F, which is the approval of the chemical contract for supplemental carbon. It's on page 10. There's a recommendation. Is there a motion?
I move the staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
I've got a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
I want to appreciate to just thank somebody for putting the usage in these so we can see kind of what the scope of what we're voting on. A lot of times we're approving and had, whether it's 100 gallons or 100,000 gallons, we didn't know. So I noticed that and I appreciate it because it gives us a better picture.
Thank you, Mr. Ponson. Further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We're now at item G, extension of chemical contract orthophosphate. It's on page 12 of the agenda. There's a recommendation. Is there a motion?
Sure, I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Benson, is there discussion? Okay, please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We're now on extension of chemical contract for liquid chlorine. On page 14 of the agenda, there's a staff recommendation. Is there a motion?
Move the staff recommendation.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Booker. Thank you. Ms. Booker seconds. Discussion? These are, it may seem like we're blowing through this. Dr. Walker.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, these are rather routine chemical purchases. Staff's gone over them very well, and they're mostly renewals and stuff. So if it seems like we're blowing through it, I mean, there's been a lot more work done to it than what it looks like. Go ahead, Dr. Walker.
I was going to say exactly the same thing because I see that we have some people in the audience who are not normally here. I didn't know, I wanted them to know that these are very routine items, either renewal, extension of a contract for an additional year as provided in the original contract, or the awarding of a contract to the lowest bidder. Those are the two things that are almost automatic, and that's what's happening right now.
Thank you. Further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We are now at award of bid Pensacola Beach wastewater treatment plant lift station upgrade. This is a little more non-routine type item. So if we just get a briefing from staff on, there is a recommendation. Is there a motion for the recommendation or any motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Second. Ms. Searle, could you give us a brief overview, because this is a little more.
I can. At Pensacola Beach plant, we have basically two plants, plants 1 and plants 2. Most people think it's just a single wastewater treatment plant, but it is not. And each year we take one of the two plants offline in order to do general maintenance on the plant while the other one operates. We do that during the winter months when the flows are low, because during the summer months we need both plants. Essentially what they found here is when they were doing some of the work, they found that the plant number 2 lift station was in pretty bad condition. We prepared detailed specifications to replace that plant number 2 lift station. It's the influent lift station. It's the main lift station basically coming into the plant. And the bids came in at $886,747.29 for the low bidder, which is Brown Construction. Brown has done a lot of work for us. They do fine work. We don't have any problems with that. The electrical component of this came in a little bit more than what we anticipated. Primarily because all the electricians are busy and, really nobody wants to work, so we're having that issue. So we're gonna, if this gets awarded by the board, we're gonna probably make some changes here, and we're gonna value engineer this and probably reduce this cost down. Jerry Piscopo's here. Jerry, did you have anything you want to add? Okay. I think that gives you a good explanation, sir.
Mr. Kimball.
So with discovering that significant damage that it talks about, I mean, was that anticipated, or do we know what, is it outside the norm, or?
Let Jerry answer some of it. He's the guy that maintains it. This is the guy we refer to all the time as the Colonel. He's also a mechanical engineer. He runs all maintenance and construction, Jerry Piscopo.
No, the damage we found is routine, but it's significant in that it's getting into the concrete structure of the wet well basin itself. And because of the limited time we have to do the work out there, it has to be done quickly to prevent it from getting any worse, to where the wet well itself would have to be excavated and removed, and that would put the plant out of service over the season, and and that would make spring break and the summer season very difficult.
Further discussion? Mr.
One of the questions I had was, it was taken offline in 2017, so a couple years have gone by. Obviously came back online, but since the bid's gone out, I mean, has there been any more erosion of this facility?
Oh, certainly, it continues to erode. We had to go through the design phase, funding, and to get it on the schedule and bid, and so that took us the 2 years.
Was there any environmental impact because of this erosion during those 2 years?
Not at all. The wet well itself is not leaking. It's aggregate that's getting exposed, which would cause the concrete to begin to decay, but it's still in satisfactory condition. It can be repaired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Ritz.
As I was reading through this the other day, I noticed that there was a concern over the change of wording when an abbreviation was used, and I thought that was rather trivial to put out that issue with the bid from Brown Construction of Northwest Florida, Inc. So I was wondering, in the pre-bid conference that you have with the contractors who are coming to bid, if this could be reiterated, that it would be best not to abbreviate the name of their construction firm, because it seems to call into a legalism, which has been, you know, okay, but still, here is all this verbiage over.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I was
NFL.
instructed by council to put that into the agenda item so the board is aware of it when they vote on it.
Do they have it in writing?
Yes, we had it corrected.
No, do the contractors have it in writing that they're not supposed to change their legal name in any way?
Well, yes, ma'am, it's, okay. Yes, they are aware of that, but the project manager sometimes gets behind, and I'm not going to say that this was the case, and they write that very quickly, and it may not be the exact legal name of the company. The legal name of the company appears on the bond, the bid bond.
Right.
And so that's how you know what the legal name of the company is, and sometimes the pencil writing or the handwriting on the bid forms doesn't match the legal description on the bond, and that kind of is what we were trying to clarify here.
And these bids are not, you know, where you just fill out a form and put in a figure. I mean, they're very comprehensive and a lot of detailed, and sometimes people will make a scrivener's error, you know, a small basic mistake, but we don't want to, you know, throw out a bid because of that and lose $400,000 or $500,000 of our ratepayers' money because, you know, a T wasn't crossed, if there's a chance to correct it and make it right. Okay. Mr. Sorrell.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows this is a very common error. It happens all the time on quotes and bids. But when we get down to a formal contract like this and the board has to approve it, our legal counsel requires certain words in certain places and they have to be fully spelled out and so on. So this is very minor, but it's something that the attorney wanted, so it's being spelled out.
Dr. Walker.
I sometimes cannot remember what name I have on one of my credit cards.
How old are you now? No, I'm just kidding. Further discussion? Okay, please vote. Motion carries 10-0.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
pursuant to Mr. Sorrell's comments about the cost of electrician, every high school kid I see, I say, become an electrician. Forget medical school, become an electrician.
Or plumber.
Yes,
Or
right.
welder.
Right.
I know, I have a friend whose son is 19 years old, and he's making more than I am with 2 master's degrees after, you know, 18 months in welding school. So, I mean, it's not a bad career. All right.
Mr. Perkins.
Yes, sir.
Also, Mrs. Benz also reminded me that staff, ECUA staff, had misspelled my name on my 25-year coffee cup. So, it just happens.
Walker's a tough name. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Request for, we're now at item J, which is on page 19, request for qualifications for general engineering consulting services. And this recommendation is a little different in that most recommendations are a flat recommendation. This one has a couple of different options on the recommendation. So if we could just get a summary from the executive director before we take any motions, and then we'll let somebody make a motion.
Yes, sir. We currently have 15 pre-qualified engineering firms on our list that we utilize. Our staff knows which firms are the best in certain areas and what staffing are available, so it works out really well for us because we just know the business. There are 2 firms out of the 15 that haven't done any work for us in a decade. They don't have local offices and they haven't done anything for us. I don't even know where they're located now, so we recommend that those 2 firms be removed, and those are Buchard Horn and Connolly and Wicker. It's simply they don't work for us and they haven't worked for us forever. We went out and did a request for proposals for anybody else that wanted to be added to this particular list. 6 firms responded, and they're shown on page 20 towards the top there. The engineering staff went through and looked at these 6 firms, and out of those 6 firms, there were 2 that they thought that had done work for us before that were better than the rest. So what I'm recommending is that you eliminate the 2 firms from the existing list, take it down from 15 to 13. Then, if you want to add the two firms that work for us more, that are more engineering accomplished, that would be the firms of Kimley Horn and Municipal Engineering Services. If that's unacceptable to the board, we can live with the 13 firms without any problem whatsoever. If you want to add all 6 firms, we can live with that too. But if you want to add the 2 firms that we feel are the most accomplished engineering firms, that's fine too. So I wanted to leave it open to the board. I know this could be politically charged. There are certain people and certain firms, I think, that are having concerns about adding any other firms, especially firms that aren't really here that do a lot of work for us. But it really doesn't impact the staff that much one way or the other. Now, certainly the firms listed here, all 6 of them can do the work. But I can tell you that we don't do work with any of them except really the Kimley Horn Group and the Municipal Engineering Service. And they do small jobs for us. They do good work. It's not a problem. But we would continue to use them on a job-by-job basis, but they wouldn't be on the pre-qualified firm. So what that means is we would just have to get approval from the board and so on. So bottom line is we can go with the 13 if you want to just eliminate the 2. You can add all 6, or you can add the 2 that are recommended by the engineering department staff.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I have a motion.
Pardon me?
Yes, I move option 2, that we remove the following firms from ECUA's list of firms pre-qualified for general engineering consulting service: Buckhart Horn, Connolly Wicker, Inc., and do not add any additional firms to the ECUA's list of firms pre-qualified for general engineering consulting service, and allow the remaining 13 firms listed herein to remain.
All right. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second. Is there discussion? Mr. Ponson? Mr. Ponson? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We're now on page 23, annual contract for System 1000 Greased Control Program. There's a recommendation on page 25. Is there a motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Penn, second. Thank you, Ms. Penn. I look up and I saw Ms. Campbell's name. I started to call on Ms. Campbell for the motion. I don't think she would have been able to do that. All right. Discussion. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We're now on item L, page 26, Central Water Reclamation Facility chlorine contact chamber coating repairs. There's a recommendation on page 28. Is there a motion?
Move the staff recommendation.
Motion by Ms. Ben. Is there a second? Ms. Booker?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Booker. Is there discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We're now on item M, page 29, Government Street Regional Station pump replacement. There's a recommendation on page 31. Is there a motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Ponson. Discussion. This is a pretty big project, Mr. Orr. Can you give us a brief one, synopsis on this?
Yes, sir, and I have the expert here also who can answer more questions than I can. But the pumps at the Main Street Regional Lift Station are quite large. They're 600 horsepower pumps are huge. And he's already gonna talk, so he's not even gonna let me talk. He's ready. He's just like every job I try to give him, he's ready. Boy, there isn't anything he can't do. But basically, the pumps at the station are giving us problems. They're Wheelo pumps. They were put in when the pump station was designed. At the time, I would say they barely met the requirements, but there are things you can do with pumps. You can run them at higher speeds in order to meet certain volumes and so on. And these pumps have basically worn out. They run these at higher speeds. They don't have the capacity. We're looking for a more robust pump, which would be a KSB pump, lower speeds, more volume. It meets the pump curves, and from that, I'll turn it over to you, Jerry.
How long have those pumps been there?
They're original. They're 10 years plus old.
Do
And
you all realize it's been 10 years since we moved that plant? I mean, time has really, really gone.
And we're still riding that horse, too.
Yeah.
But the issue we've had a significant amount of issues with these pumps. We've negotiated with Wheelo. We had extended warranty, and we've had multiple factory people down here. They don't make the pump anymore, and because it's been so problematic for them, not just here, but they had another installation in Virginia that was problematic for them. And so we're looking for a different style pump, and the pump we selected was basically through attrition based on what we think the pumps can perform with. And the KSB pump is one of the larger pumps, or more, if you will, it represents one of the majority of the pumps we use over 25 horsepower throughout our system. And we have a very high confidence in the KSB pump. And these are, as Steve indicated, they're 791 RPM versus the 1800 RPM that's currently installed in that wet well. And they're actually less horsepower, but have a higher capacity, so higher efficiency pump.
That's great. Ms. Ritz?
I had some questions. Where else in the United States has this pump been utilized?
They're a national firm and an international firm, and they have pumps of this horsepower in specifically site. I can't say off the top of my head, but I know they have them in this country as well in other installations at this horsepower.
And what if it's not satisfactory when the group goes over? What is possibly Plan B?
Plan B would be to back up and not purchase the pumps and have to go with a different style of pump.
And lastly, I had noted to myself, will the German factory underwrite the trip, since you are going to their factory and they are not coming here to show you a pump in some other region similar or the same?
Well, so they have a factory that is capable of testing the pump at the multiple hydraulic conditions that we have. And this was omitted during the manufacturing of the Wheelo pump, which also came from Germany. And we didn't do that during the project, and I think that's one of the things we need to do to verify that the pump can actually perform, given the demanding hydraulic conditions that we have. And while it's in the test pit, one of us can stand there and say, no, leave it run longer, and I want to see if it vibrates or gets hot. Or one of the various problems we've had here where the pumps have basically shaken or overheated and had multiple issues during high pumping conditions.
In their own review of their machinery, do they have a listing of like, oh, this is really great under the following conditions versus we've noticed this problem under the following conditions? Do they have something like that for you to review?
Yes,
prior to
but
the trip?
the hydraulic conditions are you can't really apply that like that. They're not all the same, and so it'd be hard for me to say that, because it didn't work in that installation, it's not going to work in this installation. So you'd have to look at every installation individually as a standalone installation. But they do have a significant list. I'd be happy to get you the list of other installations for you to look at and ask questions about. And as far as, are they willing to pay for us to go to Germany? Absolutely. I was told that we would have to pay for it because we're a governmental agency, so.
So you say that the firm is paying for your trip?
No, it is not.
No.
No, I was told that that's not done that way.
The ratepayer will be underwriting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Ben.
Thank you. Yes, I had a question about the 5-year non-prorated 100% warranty.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any extension?
Well,
Available on
they'll
that?
offer as long a warranty that we're willing to pay for.
But it comes with the 5 year.
5-year, 100%, and they're one of the few pump manufacturers that's willing to do that at that
And an
horsepower.
extension is available
It is.
if you wanted to purchase, if
That's
ECUA
correct.
wanted to purchase it. And will there be any question about it being installed with this warranty? Will it affect it in any way?
No, because
ECUA plant-
ECUA will handle the installation.
Installation, so it
Yes.
won't have anything to do with the
No.
issue with the warranty?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and they will have engineers here at startup.
Dr. Walker?
Will there be an operational savings from these smaller horsepower engines, motors? Or,
There would be because of the higher efficiency pump,
and
and the
can
cost of
you
electric.
estimate an annual savings?
No, because it's gonna be based on flow and, how well we do with I and rain events and hurricanes and those types of things. I did buy, these pumps are high alloy, so they would be able to handle pumping, salt water, so, without corroding.
Hope we don't have to.
Wait,
Mr. Ponson?
These pumps, so the test that you're talking about doing in Germany is the actual pumps after they're manufactured before they're shipped here.
that's
This is
correct.
not
These
a-
will be by serial number, dropped in the hole and tested at full horsepower.
Okay, at multiple conditions.
Yes.
Seems like since we've had bad pumps before, that seems like a cheap insurance.
That's correct. That's why I recommended it.
Mr. Hammer?
I don't like the idea of the ratepayers paying for the trip. We thought of, hey, I get it, it's probably $5,000 to send somebody over there. Hey, take $5,000 off the total bill for what we're paying to compensate for that. Is that an option?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
No, we can't pay for any part, or they cannot pay for any part of our trip. This has to be done by us, and it has to be independently per legal counsel.
That's not what I'm saying is, instead of paying $1 million, whatever, take $5,000 or whatever the cost is off that total price, and it's kind of built in. Can always circumnavigate something.
Dr. Walker? Well,
No, we're not gonna be able to negotiate that. These are competitively bid, and, I mean, we went out and got quotes, so we're not gonna be able to adjust them that way. And I don't wanna be any part of anything like that anyway. It's gotta be straight, and it's gotta be above board, and for the little bit of cost that it's gonna involve for us to go over and take a look at these and make sure they're correct, it's just cheap insurance. We'll probably send a couple people, probably the colonel will go. He's a mechanical engineer. He'll be looking at metallurgy and shaft sizes and different materials and things like that. And then one of our pump maintenance guys will probably go and he'll be looking at how to maintain the pump. So we'll look at it from two different perspectives and make sure the pump meets all the flow conditions and the speed conditions and various other things. And just make sure these pumps are correct this time, because the ones we have now are giving us nothing but trouble. And I think one's out of service now, isn't it? Yeah, one of the pumps down there's out of service right now, it's just about beyond capability of using. So even though it's gonna be a while, we need to get these pumps on order if we can.
Mr. Ponson?
I think that, if we spend $10,000 to get the right thing, I don't know that, I think it's good use of ratepayer money. I don't, we're not talking about a vacation, we're not talking about going to, to a conference. We're talking about going and actually looking at this equipment and seeing how it performs under existing condition instead of reading pump curves in a catalog, which, I produce those all the time and can make them look like you want them to look. So I think this is a good use of ratepayer money.
Dr. Walker?
One can go on a trip paid for by a company, and it could be all above board, but it might not be. And people, observers might think, well, this is another boondoggle trip for some of the board members or the staff guys or whatever, whoever goes. So it's better that we pay our own way, I think.
Ms. Schneer?
First off, the other pump is $300,000 more, and this trip is certainly not going to be $300,000. Secondly, I think it's very important that he actually sees one in operation so he knows how it works when he gets it here. I think it's going to be a very educational experience for him, and I think it's very important that he goes and sees it.
Thank you, Ms. Shear. You know, one of the things that I really like about this selection is that there's no modifications required to put the pump in. I mean, you know, that can be real expensive, having to modify everything to you know, for the pumps. It's nice to be able to put that pump in, and if something happens, you know, go with something else you can plug in and go. So that's a big cost savings there, and probably a big time savings as well.
Yes, sir. Well, these pumps, the only thing we'll have to retrofit is the base elbow, because the new pump weighs, you're paying for it by the pound. It's basically twice the weight of the old pump.
Yeah.
So it's almost 15,000 pounds each unit, and the current pumps are about 6,500 pounds. So.
Mr. Kimball.
So, at first I thought 46 weeks. When I saw that, I was like, man, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, but I recognize coming, you know, overseas and everything, but, I mean, is there any possibility that it would, A, get here faster than that, and then, I mean, what we have in place, if it's struggling now, are we gonna be okay in the short term?
Well, we've been struggling for 10 years, so we'll be okay. The bigger issue is getting them on order and getting them here. So, though it takes, unfortunately, it'll probably be around week 40 that we would be called over for the factory test, and then you got 6-8 weeks of shipping time coming over. The last 150 horsepower pump I purchased from KSB was right at 50 weeks. So I would imagine anything better than that is they're already expediting. They know we're in trouble, and the rep is working with us and the factory to get us in the schedule as quickly as possible.
Seeing no more lights, please vote. Motion carries 10-0. We are now on item N. It's on page 33, agent broker for commercial insurance and bonds. This is a staff analysis and a motion recommendation on page 37. Is there a motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Ben. Is there discussion? This insurance stuff's pretty complicated.
This one's fairly simple. This is award to low bid, people we've already been using. Give the Human Resources Department staff and our risk management staff a lot of credit on this. They put this together, and I had to read it about 3 times and before I really figured out what it said. But basically, it's award of a low bid to 2 firms that we've used before. It doesn't get, for very little cost increase, so it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, I would say that to stick with who's doing a good job, even if they're, this is a good, from my experience, this would be a good thing for the board to move forward with.
Okay, please vote. Motion carries 10-0. Are there any questions or comments on any of the informational reports? Is there any unfinished business? Ms. Ritz?
Is this the appropriate time to talk about composting bags of 20 pounds? This is the appropriate?
I think that would be suitable if there's no objection.
When I read the customer pipeline for August, I thought about, what about a 20-pound bag for the compost? Because 40 pounds is rather large for, if I'm to go out and get a bag and haul it out of my car. And I was wondering if that has ever been discussed or considered, a 20-pound bag for customers.
Actually, we can make different size bags, if I remember correctly. We have our own bagging machine. But there hasn't been any demand for the smaller bags because of the cost issue associated with those, because there's a fixed cost associated with bagging that material. It's not necessarily compost, it's the labor and the equipment and so on. So there isn't a big reduction in cost for a 20-pound versus a 40-pound bag. And most people wanted the 40-pound bag, they didn't want the 20, so that's why we stayed with it. And, but, you know, we can look at it again if that's necessary. The good news on compost, and it's getting off the story a little bit, but we've sold basically everything we have. I mean, we are sold out. They are using it. Panhandle Grading just bought 3,000 tons of it. And peanut farmers are buying it, and others, and there's just not much left over. There's very little left over for the bagging operation. But we could look at 20s if you want, but I don't think that's going to be a very cost-effective solution.
Can I finish the other one? Okay. I had read in the newspaper, the Pensacola News Journal, about recycling of razors by TerraCycle. And so I brought an article today for consideration. I don't know how appropriate it would be for the recycling center, but at no cost you can drop off razors at drop-off centers. And they have a map where you can see where these centers are now located. So to whom do I give copies? Okay.
What was the name of the thing again?
Terra, TerraCycle.
Thank you. Okay.
May I just add to that? That'd be good information to have on our website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real good information.
There are 6 locations supposedly in Florida, and I did not take the time to look this up, but I thought it would be something that staff could look into.
Thank you. Mr. Ponson?
I've got, if she's finished, and I don't know if this is appropriate, inappropriate, not the right time for it, shut me off, but I've been curious about maybe an update on the upcoming exit of where we are, where maybe the condition of the candidate's timing,
Yeah,
when he's leaving.
I think that's wholly appropriate. You know, the committee may be a little bit out of the loop. I mean, the board's been getting filled in and stuff, but I think that's a great request. Ms. Earl, could you give us an update on where we are with the executive director search?
Yes, sir, I can. I'm leaving tomorrow. No, that's not true. The professional search firm has done their work. They've received approximately 70 applications, many of which are not qualified. They now have it down to 8 semifinalists. Those 8 candidates have just been provided to the board, I think today or yesterday. And the board at the next board meeting will be expected to narrow that down to 3 to 5 candidates for interview. At that time, those candidates will be brought in for interviews, and then at the September meeting, the board will be either expected to rate the top, say 3, 1, 2, and 3, or to just reject those, and then we can go out and get more applicants. So the process is moving along. It's been complicated. I've reviewed it. I've read an awful lot of them, and just amazing some of the things that you read when you look at those. You're probably familiar with that, Randy, but I've read some things that, and then I've followed up on those, and just can't believe what some people write, and then others do a good job. So it's, but the process is moving along, and next Tuesday, I guess it is, the board will be considering the top 8 semifinalists, and I think Colin Benzinger will be here.
Okay, Dr. Walker?
I have read through the notebook that we received. With
Already?
With the 8 whatever proposals, and I am excited that there's some very good ones in there. I think, unless they turn us, I think we'll offer the job to someone who's very qualified.
Sounds like you just can't wait to get rid of Sorrel. No, I'm just kidding. No, there are, you know, and through looking at it on paper, you know, I did a cursory look. I haven't gone in depth like I planned to this week, but there were some candidates that looked pretty good on the search. Okay. Is there any new business?
Oh, new business?
If it's unfinished, you can go ahead and do it.
I still see District 3 unfilled, and I'm wondering when the governor will appoint someone to fill that position. Because I'm sure the board would enjoy another, I shouldn't say the word enjoy, would benefit from another voice.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Ritz. Mr. Ponson?
I had that same question on my list to ask, and if there's anything you know, phone calls or emails, if there's anything that we can do to help, you know, just let us know.
I think the phone calls and emails help, I mean, but they've been going on. I mean, I really don't understand it myself. I was really hoping that we would get a representative of that district here before we choose our new executive director, because it's a fifth of the population, it's an underrepresented community, and you know, who knows what'll happen. I've been telling people that if you have any constituent service problems in District 3, or you know any people in District 3, call me, I'll be glad to help.
Call the
And I
governor.
have, I've been getting quite a few of them from there, actually.
I've been telling them the same thing.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, you
we're-
need
you
to
know,
tell
we'll
them to
take
call
up
the
the
governor
slack,
and-
yeah. We'll help, but I would really love to see, Ms. Schneer, did you?
Well, I'm in District 3, and I feel like up here I represent District 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have put in my application for the governor appointment. And so I'm asking all of y'all, if you feel like I would be the right fit to represent District 3, please contact the governor and let him know.
Thank you.
Because I would be happy to represent District 3. That's what I really want to do. It's my
Good.
passion, so.
Awesome. All right, any other new or unfinished business? We are now at open forum. We have one person signed to speak, Mr. Barry Tweedy. You're recognized for
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can keep it under that. Item you've already talked about, page 16, item I, the 2 lift stations out at the beach. I saw in the newspaper a picture of one of them, I think, 2 large sand piles that the ECUA is going to be allowed to keep out there for up to 2 years. But I didn't see any mention of it, if I might have missed it, in the item that you took up. So I presume that'll have its own budget and be added onto the total at the end?
Well, those sand piles those are totally different from that lift station. Ms. Pisco, I don't know if you want to address it, but that's a totally different project.
Okay.
You know, that was basically from dredging out there and widening that channel. And I think we're going to be allowed to use that sand. I don't know. Go ahead, Mr.
The sand piles in the picture, I think you saw, they're gonna be used to rebuild the bulkhead for our water tanks. That's through the water department and the water management district and the Army Corps. So that's a completely different project, not affiliated with the wastewater plant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Anybody else in open forum? Hearing none, we are adjourned.